Hey, everybody. I hope everybody's glad to be here. And we're going to do a little, I guess, our own Prog Report picks to see how we match up in a couple of days when the Prog Report releases their answers. And this is episode number 6 of the Prog Round Table. So let's start it off with the person immediately on my bottom. So, Mike, that will be you. We'll go to Matthew, and then Nathan, and then myself. So the first category is live album of the year. Where do we sit with that, Mike?
Oh boy, there's some really good picks on here. I have to be perfectly honest, I haven't heard the new Porcupine Tree one yet.
Oh,
It's still in my queue. I might be a little biased because I actually saw the Stephen Hackett, the Foxtrot at 50. Um, like I saw it when it came to Toronto, and I loved it. I then ordered the DVD CD combo, so that's where my vote might land, although I wouldn't be disappointed if Neil Morse Evening of I and D took it, because that one, I think, out of all of them, was the one that I've been listening to the most throughout the year. So yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with any of these, but those would be my two picks.
yeah.
Yeah, so I haven't heard most of these. I've heard the Tangents. I didn't know Frost had a live album out, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
So just seeing these, I'm like, okay, yeah, gotta listen to those. Frost, I didn't know Sherinian Phillips live was out. Steve Hackett, I've heard. I feel like it's similar. I can't remember how the track list lines up because there are so many of those albums that it almost just went over my head. I forgot. I could safely say that that's probably near the top for me, just familiarity wise with the music. The Porcupine Tree track list alone is worthy of some praise. I mean, that was
definitely
fantastic. So I think, just based on Steven Wilson's history and pedigree, I'd probably go with that one, even though I haven't heard it.
Yeah. My pick would probably be the Transatlantic, probably predictably, the Final Flight, just because of it's like a monumental final show for them. So I think it's a great celebration of them as a band, since it's probably going to be their last hurrah. If I was to predict the winner, though, I'd probably guess Porcupine Tree. Prog Report's audience and just how monumental their tour was. And I saw Porcupine Tree live with my dad, and I can verify the set list was amazing and they did an incredible job. And I haven't heard this or watched this yet, but because everything they put out is, so I'm sure that's a great pick too.
Well, like you said, Nathan, they're probably going to win just because of the popularity voice, but I don't think we should count Frost out either. There's a lot of people that have already spoke very highly of that live concert, but I would pick Foxtrot at 50 personally as my choice for video of the year.
What was the set with that one, or what were some of the albums that were featured heavily?
On which one?
Yeah, Foxtrot at 50. The whole second disc is just Foxtrot, and then the first disc is his solo stuff with, I found, split between Spectral Morning and Voyage of the Acolyte.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah.
So
those are two of mine too.
Yeah.
All right, we are on to the video of the year.
This one's hard.
Oh,
this one's hard. Like,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and I did a whole video series this back in the day, looking at Prog's not so great history of music videos. Unfortunately, I feel like we haven't quite cracked the code of how to do a very good music. Uh, I almost I have to go with Steven Wilson because at least he does something different. It's not just a band cover photo for all of his. So yeah, I think for mine it's just pure muscle memory and doing Steven Wilson Impossible Tightrope because that was a very good music video from.
Yeah, I hate to be a stan on this one, but that's probably it for me too. I the reason is similar. I feel like a couple of these I can think of. Haken's The Alphabet of Me is just the band playing. It's like a cool set, but
Yeah.
anytime it's just the band playing and there's some other storyline or some visual element beyond that, I'm not crazy about that kind of video. And then I feel like I don't remember Temix. It might have been the same kind of the same way. I feel like Tesseract did that, but that was with their War of Being track. I don't know what the Gray they did with that one. I can't remember. Trevor Rabin's probably not my favorite song from that album. So just based on that, I don't know if I go with it. And then the rest of these, I think band playing in water. The song is called Water. And then I don't know if I've seen the rest. I don't know who Molly Baron is. I don't know if you guys know that band. So I'd probably say Steven Wilson. That one just visually was stunning. It's really cool, like 3D work and all these landscapes and crazy surreal stuff.
Yeah.
And too, just because of his popularity.
Yeah, I'd probably agree. I think Steven Wilson probably easily has this one. It's hard to like think about just the video versus like what songs I liked more because on this list I kind of I feel a connection to the Advent Horizon track Water just because it was a surprise for me this year and watching the video was my first exposure to them. But it is, you know, like you said, just kind of the band just performing in water. So it's not like anything really spectacular, but just a really cool song. I really like the Riverside one as too, is probably my second favorite on the list, the Friend or Foe. I thought that was a pretty cool video. But yeah, I think Steven Wilson's probably far and away the leader on this one.
I love that Riverside single, but I don't
Yeah.
think I've seen the video.
Yeah.
Is it
It's
like
kind of
conceptual? Because I feel like the album is so.
It's very 80s themed, is it not, that video?
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
that's how I remember it. Very like colorful and like 80s style, I think.
What do you guys think of all these AI videos coming out?
I
Like, I was surprised pattern seeking animals aren't on this list just because of that.
see it's hard because like on the one hand it like because I look at a lot of this through my work just being like in the library and so like there's like this moral quandary that I have with AI because you're essentially not hiring very talented animators to do the work that you know these machines are essentially doing. So like almost on that basis I always kind of look at it with like a little bit of a
There is, yeah, that definitely that sense of almost creepiness because it's not
like
made.
I'm okay then you go and you build off of it. So like what Peter Gabriel was doing with his couple of music videos that he was releasing, where well, that was the starting point, and then he went and built off of it. I think it could be really, really interesting. But I feel like, say for example, what he did with his single that he's releasing for his next video, where it was just kind of him superimposed on top of a background of the AI art. I was like, oh, I want to see a little bit more. So
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's like anything else, right? Like it's if you're kind of it's like if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. I
Everything
think it
looks
can
like
be
Mid Journey.
Everything looks like Midjourney. Yeah. Or like
Yeah.
the for any of us millennials, it looks like the old Windows Media Player from like the early 2000s, where it's just nothing but spinny things, right?
Yeah, there's definitely
So
like with where the technology's at, there's a look where it has
mhm.
a specific aesthetic and you can tell that it's, and maybe it'll become more advanced and
Mhm.
but just in the name is artificial. And I feel like, I don't know, I just appreciate like the real thing and real people
Yeah.
and real
Yeah.
cameras. And
Yeah. Again, if you use it as a tool and use it as a starting point, great. But if I'm like, well, that's not really art.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
But as I digress, my choice would definitely be Stephen Wilson too. So I think that's all four of us, isn't it not?
I think so.
for that song too, just how
It is.
ridiculous and
Well, it's
sprawling that song is. Yeah. Got plenty of ads here.
You got to get them that cheddar.
album cover of the year. This one's a little more easier to go with.
Yeah, there's some good ones.
There is.
Oh boy. So I got to start again, eh? I've already submitted all my votes, so I already know what I voted for, but like I'm gonna be an odd one out, and I gotta say that Crownlands album. Um, I just, as much as I really appreciate some of the more ones like Riverside's ID and Haken's Fauna, there was also a lot of like samey album covers out there. Like I felt like the E Molecule one and the Southern Empire one and bit of the like the Catatonia one, like they're all very samey, and I felt like the Crownlands album was like a throwback but also modernizing. Like it was something that I had seen before but new, like it reminded me of some of Roger Dean's lesser known, kind of like what he was doing with Uriah Heep, where it's like layers of very basic shapes and colors with a very clear focal point. So yeah, I really like the color of the main title and the album jacket.
And it goes so well with
Oh.
that album too. Like
It does.
hand in hand, they're perfect for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think typography can easily go wrong. And I feel like a lot of progressive rock bands like overuse it or use more face, and it just becomes kind of messy. But that one I really like. They just like got it right. And yeah, that one's really cool. But another one that did that well, I think, is the Anchoret. And
Mhm.
it's one where I like that it doesn't scream that it is. Like if I just saw that crate digging or something, I wouldn't really know. I would think it was some like alternative indie type of thing. But really cool coming from a prog metal act. And
Mhm.
I do like Haken's a lot too. That's,
Yeah.
I just like color. I like maximalism. I like a lot of detail and stuff, and like finding little nuggets after looking for a while. So Haken's is cool. It's like, I don't really remember the subject. Is it like green?
A lot of
If it's
greeny
it,
flowing.
yeah, it was in my recollection of the sky void of stars. It was like that usual like middle light, and then everything else was like variants of gray and black. Very very Catatonia.
Yeah. And then pattern seeking animals on the typography end, I just feel like it's like too much going on. For
Mhm.
that reason, it wasn't crazy.
Yeah, well, my choice I would be Haken Fauna. I really love that album cover, and I think it fits with the theme of the album, how all the songs are about different animals, and like I love trying to pick out all the different animals and nods to the different songs on the album cover kind of thing is always a fun fun thing to see, and I just think it's really colorful and bright and a cool concept. So yeah, that was clearly my favorite. But I do love the Crown Lands one also on this list. So some really cool ones.
I feel like Haken will win.
Yeah, that would be my prediction too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, I feel like that artist is like really nailing it home, because that was the best part of the Flower Kings album that he
Yeah.
you know, I feel like he's almost like the modern Roger Dean at this point for prog album covers.
Right.
My runner up,
Usurping
Yes
Roger
album.
Dean.
Yeah, I really like the Yes album cover, the Mirror to the Sky, but I would have to go with Neil Morse's The Dreamer. That album cover really works for me without being too pretentious or being just something that doesn't make any sense at all. I really quite like it. I find it quite striking, actually.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Yeah, I like how the part 2 is mirroring it without copying it,
Yeah.
of like the typical like 1-2 punch of the two albums.
Oh, this one's always a fun category. Album production of the year.
They have like any publication, it's like a kind of a panel that decides
Yeah.
these things, right? Like how many people are we talking? Is it one person? Is what's his name?
Roy.
Right?
Roy, I think.
It's probably him and a group of others, right? Who make these calls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe next year we'll have to do our own prog report. See how
Yeah.
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 Like YouTube Prog Awards or something.
Yeah. A hard one, isn't it?
Yeah, production is always so hard, right? Because I'm putting actual music notes aside, and I'm just looking at how they sound. You know, like how was the production of the album, and it's hard for me to divorce the two. So yeah, it's like there are a lot of albums on here that I really love, but like I think for me, if I'm going in terms of production and how it sounded, 16 sounded incredible. Like I could hear every little detail on that thing. The string section, the choral sections that he brought on, all the guest features sound incredible off of that. I'd specifically be my favorite record of the year, but in terms of sounding, it sounded incredible. At the end of the day, I think the Harmony Codex is going to win because obviously it's Steven Wilson. You know, anything that he touches is going to sound amazing, especially in 5.1 surround sound. But you know, I want to shine the spotlight on somebody a little bit that doesn't have that big clout behind them. So that's what I'm going to say. Like, I think best sounding was Inars, but I have a feeling that Steven Wilson's going to win it.
I think.
Yeah, I think because that album, the focus is so heavily on soundcraft and just his whole, you know, so I'd agree that I think that probably will win. Akr's album isn't my favorite just from a songwriting perspective, but I appreciate the quality given the circumstance of a young band, not as many resources, supposedly in a cabin. I mean, they had a record deal, you know, a big one. But compared to someone like Steven Wilson, his experience is set. It's pretty impressive, that sound. But I think I would probably go IO, Peter Gabriel. I mean, you can't get bigger budget
Nope.
than that. So it's kind of the opposite of Acris, but I think flaunt it.
Yeah,
Do it
absolutely.
big. And
Yeah.
that one for me, I put these things on. It's just like just heavenly. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I wanted to kind of showcase some of the smaller sounds just as good as some of these big acts, but they're using like a shoestring budget, like No Spoons album.
yeah.
Sounds incredible, and they're literally using like MacBook Pros. Like I don't know, but like I'm pretty sure like it's just like the one guy's mixing board in his basement, right?
Yeah.
Massive studios like Peter Gabriel or Steven Wilson, but it still sounds incredible.
Yeah, I would be much in line with what everyone's saying. I think for me, I would vote for Harmony Codex, Steven Wilson. I think he'll could upset his win. It's probably Peter Gabriel IO, just because of how important that album has been. But yeah, for the more indie type bands, the up and comers, I think the No Spoon album really blew me away with how it sounded for like a debut record. So personally, that's probably my favorite choice, but they're all really great.
This is a tricky one because I find a lot of these, the ones I've heard, to be very polished, which is a good thing. Like they're very ear pleasing. You hear everything, but I'm going to give it to Awkward because I find that album, and same with the No Spun album, there's a lot more emotional tension in it because it's not perfect. Like you can actually picture yourself in that cabin when you're listening to that album.
Yeah.
All the sounds from around the rain. I think there's a train you hear at one point, kind of. And yeah, so that would be my pick
That is cool.
for production
Totally.
of the year.
That's the thing about production, is the subjectivity to it is like, well, something can sound pristine, but sometimes the idiosyncratic little noises and things make something special.
Yeah, it could be almost, it loses that organicness to it.
Now we have the song of the year.
Oh, there's so many to choose from.
This is like impossible.
There were so many of these picks where I've chosen from the album.
Yeah, same.
But
Same.
There's so many songs.
To keep this one short, because this one was a no-brainer for me. Yeah, there were a lot on here that I'm like, why would you choose that song when there's like my favorite song from the album in question isn't the one that they chose. Now, luckily they got it right for the Avenged Sevenfold, because it is the song of the year. It's Cosmic. It's the most perfect song. I cry every time I listen to it because it's just so perfect. So that's an easy one for me. It was Cosmic.
Nice. I have to get through the list here. I don't really remember them too well.
Well, that was the thing. Once I saw Cosmic, I'm like, I don't need to see the rest of this list. I'm moving on.
Right. Start
That was at the bottom of the list.
Like Steven Wilson, I wouldn't choose that one.
No.
Cut from the Stars, I wouldn't choose. Can you hover near the bottom just for a second? Sorry. Okay. Sub Signal, I wouldn't choose that song. Push is the one from that Trevor Rabin album. Go up a little bit. RPWL, I choose something different.
Oh yeah, me too.
Panopticon, I choose something different. Go up. Emotional Depiction of Light. Has anyone heard that song? Redemption.
I have not.
Really great song. You gotta check that out. It's the love it. It might be that one. I might have voted for that one. Keep going up a little bit though. I love that Moon Safari song.
Yeah.
Probably be between the one I mentioned and Moon Safari. I can't really remember it's at the top, but the Catatonia song's really good. That's probably my favorite from that album. I never heard the Kite Parade album. I didn't buy the CD, so
it was good. It was good, and Retro was the best track off of that album. So I'm kind of shocked that the bumper book for mysteries from I Am the Manic Whale wasn't on there, because Nautilus is like the second best track of the year.
With the, I think it's called The Emotional Depiction of Light. I can
Mhm.
never remember the name, but yeah.
Yeah, I think I voted for a Earworm. I just think it's super fun and like one of the most fun prog metal tracks that I heard this year. That's one of my favorite tracks from that record. I probably might have gone with Moon Safari, but I kind of wanted to spread the love around, and I think they have choice
Mhm.
be more preferable. But yeah, that was where my head went, was with No Spoon, to give them a nod to something. But as for what will actually win, it's like really hard to say.
It is.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe the Friend or Foe, is that in here? I feel like that might.
It's Big Tech Brother is their Riverside.
Oh, really?
pick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cut from the Stars could maybe win.
Yeah, maybe Cut from the Stars. Maybe Steven Wilson just for popularity, but I'm kind of surprised
Yeah.
that's the song they picked.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Is my favorite track from that album wasn't on there, but
I would sorry to cut you off, Brent, if you're gonna
No worries.
dive in, but I probably would have voted for Advent Horizon if it had been the Rain on Open Water or Truth. I love those two songs.
Those are good.
This one was difficult for me too, going over and over and over this list many times, but I'm going to tell you mine's going to be Between the Devil and Me. I love the harmonies of that song and just how uplifting, and at the same time is kind of a little bit on the darker side of things too. It's a bit of a tone to it. I think it's a brilliant song, and I think that album is brilliant too. Wow.
Oh yeah.
Totally.
yeah, that's fair.
Well, we're on to the epic of the year. No.
No, open it, Brett.
The Prague fam signs up for a credit card.
I see this as another monster of a list.
Oh yeah, this one was tough, man. Like there are some on here that I wouldn't even necessarily call an epic.
No.
You know?
Elephants Never Forget. I'm like,
yeah, like it's the longest song on the album.
How long is it?
It's like
Just
10
over
10 or 11 minutes. Same with like Mirror to the Sky and
Why would they pick that Unitopia song?
Merry Go Round from
Utopia epic.
There's so it's interesting, right? For me it comes down to No Spoon. And like I don't want to just like those two are just so good at what they do. I think I have to give it to Safari, even though No Spoon is the the Og and the to Teen Angel Meets the Apocalypse. The more I love it, so
yeah, it feels like a boring choice, but maybe that's just because our group has been talking about it so
and it's my
much.
favorite epic of the year. Like I think they're really good, but yeah, it just if that within the realm of possibility was maybe 5 minutes more, it might have gotten the edge off of it. But I think it's just still just a little too short to be considered an epic.
I don't think they had in mind what was an epic length.
Looks
Now,
like
what
it's
would you
anything
guys
over
say,
like
15
10
and
minutes,
up,
maybe.
or?
I usually go 15
Yeah.
and up. Like 15 is the baseline. Preferably 17 minutes, but 15 is like a baseline for me.
Sorry if there's any moment where I just talk over someone, because I think notes you were talking and then I don't know, you're cutting out. So
It's okay. That's my internet is all
Yeah.
wonky.
I'm sure it's you.
It's me. It's me.
Um,
Hi, it's me. I'm the problem.
I'd go Moon Safari too. I just love that song. Yeah, it's my favorite on the album. And Elephant's Never too, so that's up there. I like the RPWL song too, though, quite a bit. But I think I have to go Moon Safari.
Dude, I think they're gonna wipe. I have to go with Moon Safari. Teen Angel Meets the Apocalypse. It's by far my favorite on the list. It's like not even close. Just they came back with everything that I ever wanted from the band and more. They do what they do perfectly, but add in some new sound or tinge to what they normally do. So it'll be interesting to see if it wins at large. I don't know if like the audience beyond our little group is as huge on this as we are, but it'll be interesting.
I would initially go with the Teen Angel as well, but I'm going to be a little different because I really loved Starlifter when I first heard it. It was like Rush Point 2.0, and every time I hear that, I go right back to Hemispheres, and yeah, it just takes me back to a whole different era. And plus, I haven't heard Teen Angel as much as I would like to. It is a great song, and probably will, if you look back on the year, it probably will be a lot higher than I'm thinking and giving it.
Yeah, what have we had, like 3 days here? A day? Well, some of you have
I
had,
was on the
I don't
8th,
know,
wasn't it?
a month.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
yesterday.
A month and a half or so.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was released yesterday, but I've had it for like.
Well, now the big one, album of the year.
Oh, this one's hard.
A million choices.
A million choices. It's like everything is on, which is interesting because like I've been working on my top 10 list of the year, and my number one album isn't listed on here, and I get why. But I do feel as if the Avenged Sevenfold was put on here specifically for me. Because I love that album so much. So I mean, if I were to pick personally, I would put Avenged Sevenfold, Life is But a Dream. But I also kind of want to give it to No Spoon, just because of coming from nowhere and now like basically starting from the bottom. Now we here. So yeah, I think because I've had that album for so long and I've been loving it so much since discovering it back in the summertime, set the gauge for the rest of the year and for the rest of like the big releases. But yeah, those two, man, there's just so many too, like holy geez. Yeah,
This is like
I'm gonna
serious spoilers here, I feel like.
Yeah,
I know,
We're
right?
spoiling our list, our end of
yeah.
year list.
A little bit. So anyway, No Spoon, from the list here, and to give them a little bit more of a boost, I think that would be my choice from this list, and I think that's what I actually ended up voting on.
Nice. I don't know how Soen got in there.
Oh,
I
that
know
was
some
such
people
a
like that album, but
yeah.
not a huge fan.
I didn't. Not a big fan.
Yeah, there's so many. I think I have an obvious choice for me based on just how much I've been talking about this album, but kind of a sleeper choice. And I still haven't worked out my top list, so I don't know like which one's taking it, but I'll just say both of them. So Peter Gabriel's I.O. is up there for me, and then Subsignals, A Poetry of Rain was a huge
Mhm.
surprise this year, and I just love that album. It's not super adventurous or new, but the songwriting is just so strong, I think, from top to bottom. I've really been into it, just listened a lot to it. So yeah.
Yeah, I think my album of the year is basically coming down to like a 2-horse race between
Yeah.
2 albums that I like think are perfect and that I love. 2 of my new favorite like albums, and one's this and the other is the Moon Safari and Lebeck in Volume 2. Kind of a spoiler for what my list will
Mhm.
probably ultimately boil down to. I think for this poll, I voted Moon Safari because I wanted them to get the little boost since their album actually came out after the poll started. So I thought they needed a little bit of love there. But I love the No Spoon album too, so it's tough between those two. As for what Prog Report at large will pick, there's so many options. It's hard to say. It's just gonna like spread out amongst so many different choices. So I don't know, but those are my top 2.
Yeah, this top of list of albums is driving me bloody nuts because things keep in and out. It's a little stressful. But right now, if I was to go off that list, I'd have a 3-way tie of Our Crust, I.O., and the Moon Safari album. So I guess we'll have to wait a few more weeks till everything kind of settles down. And
Those could not be 3 more different albums.
I
So
know.
I
I
applaud you.
agree. I agree.
Yeah,
Which I think is
all
why they're so
great.
appealing.
I
Yeah.
love all 3.
Nice.
And artist and band of the year being the last one.
Yeah, before we get into that, there's a few albums on there that I'm surprised didn't make the list, even though
Yeah.
Everything and The Kitchen Sink was on that list. Like Earthside's
Earthside.
album wasn't on there, which I was shocked about. The Seventh Impale and the Lars Fredrik Frolsli albums weren't there. Like in my mind, those were like some of the best prog pieces that came out this year, and I didn't. So yeah, coming back to the artist and band of the year, I'm glad that this one's a little shorter, because it did help narrow it down. And I don't want to give it to the fan favorites, like I wanted to give it to No Spoon for this one, because I think they're the ones that kind of deserve it for this year, being kind of like the true winners of this year. Again, they're not signed to any record label, it's purely independent, and yet they've gotten so much notoriety. But so in that vein, I don't want to give it to a band like Yes or Trevor Rabin or Steven Wilson or Jethro Tull or Neil Morse, like all these really established players. I think for like a band or artist of the year, even though they came in right at the very end, will probably be, for me, it was Moon Safari. Coming back with after like 11 years waiting for it and knocking it out of the park. Because how many times have we waited for a follow-up album that just kind of fell flat? This was one of the few albums that actually met and exceeded all my expectations. So I think for that reason, I would only give Moon Safari.
Yeah, this is a tough one because you don't really know what you're voting for. Is it like most productive, most the best human, best,
Yeah.
best album? Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to say. There are where it's been a little bit, maybe not too long for like Tesseract, but they're coming back, and Moon Safari, like you said, and I applaud those where it's been a while and then they come through with something excellent. I think Moon Safari's here for that reason. I think what Peter Gabriel did with I.O. is pretty unique, and I didn't listen to many of the singles month to month, but just that whole rollout was so cool and well done. And fans of him, it was pretty special.
Yeah.
And really, made it getting little videos where it go into the background of the songs, the concepts, and
that was real neat.
Yeah, those are so well done. And so I appreciate that. So just from like a pure, I mean, he put out something every month of the year. So he was always relevant the whole year. So maybe a tie between him and Moon Safari for different reasons.
Yeah, I think I'm going in much the same direction, which is funny since they both released albums in December. But yeah, Moon Safari versus Peter Gabriel is where my head was at. I voted Moon Safari just because of my personal connection with the band and just how much this album over the last 10 years, and it was like delivered and then some. And I'm not as big, I don't have as big a history with Peter Gabriel's solo work, but I really respect what he did this year, and I think IO is a triumph of his solo material year for him too. So those are probably the big two, but my personal preference is Moon Safari.
Now, what I figure is going to win is either going to be Moon Safari or the Peter Gabriel album. But if I was going to put my two picks in, I'd pick Southern Empire's new album because it actually was a lot better than I ever anticipated it was going to be. And Pattern Seeking Animals' new album is by far my most favorite album of theirs in their discography. And I think it's going to rate very, very high on my list. Very pleasantly surprised with it.
Nice. I feel like I haven't given that one enough of a shot. So get me to keep digging.
For sure.
Consistent. It's hard for me to pick a favorite of Pattern Seeking Animals because I feel like all their albums are just all of the similar quality. They're just really great.
Does
But
anyone
this
know the
one is
Bruce Sword?
Yeah, I've heard that one. He's the
That's a new one for me.
Oh.
I'm not familiar with that
Yeah.
at all.
It's got the blue cover. It's his face, right? It's like kind of a close up.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's a very like laid back kind of singer-songwriter type album. Not really very proggy, but very
How different than a Pineapple Thief album is it?
not too wildly different. It's pretty much in line with Pineapple Thief, to me at least.
It's not a bad thing, though.
Excellent.
Well,
Maybe
guys,
a little bit more laid back. But
I've enjoyed this, and thank you for all coming on and having this fun little exercise. We had a good time, I think, and I guess we'll see each other in the near future in another video.
Absolutely. This was a lot of fun. Thanks for having us on.
No problem, guys. Well, if I don't see you, have a Merry Christmas. And
You too.
Yeah.
we'll talk soon.
Talk soon.
right.
Take care, everybody.
Sounds good.
Thanks.